Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Jyoti Petkar, Assistant Professor in the Department of Anesthesiology, and today I will be taking class about blood transfusion, fluid and electrolyte balance. So, what is blood transfusion? The process of transferring blood or blood-based product from one person into the circulatory system of another is called as blood transfusion. It is life-saving in some situations, like in a massive blood loss, to replace the blood lost during surgery and to treat anemia. At the same time, it may prove a dangerous medicine as it may be associated with various adverse reactions. Early transfusion used whole blood, but modern medicine practice commonly uses components of blood. So, what is appropriate and inappropriate transfusion? You should know it. Sometimes transfusion may be unnecessary for the following reason: prevention or early diagnosis and treatment of anemia and other conditions that cause anemia, to raise the hemoglobin level of the patient before surgery or to allow earlier discharge from the hospital, when the infusion of normal saline or other IV replacement fluids would be safer, less expensive and equally effective. By good anesthetic and surgical management, like preventing excessive blood loss can be done. It can avoid blood transfusion if blood is given when it is not needed, exposed to unnecessary or high risk. So, blood is an expensive and a scarce source, so it should be used whenever it is required. So, what are the principles of clinical transfusion practice? Transfusion is only one part of management of a patient. So, prescribing should be based on the national guidelines on the clinical use of blood, taking individual patient's needs into account. Blood loss should be minimized to reduce the patient's need for transfusion. The patient with acute blood loss should receive effective resuscitation, like in IV fluid, oxygen, etc., and try to avoid blood transfusion. And at that time, you can assess the need for transfusion. So, the patient's hemoglobin value, although important, should not be the sole deciding factor in starting the transfusion. The clinician should be aware of the risks of transfusion and transmissible infection in the blood products. In the coming next slides, you will come to know what are the risks of transfusion and what are the infection which can be transfused by using blood products. So, transfusion should be prescribed only when the benefits of the patient outweigh the risk. A trained person should monitor the transfused patient and respond immediately if any adverse reaction occurs. So, blood loss up to 20% can be corrected with a IV fluid like a crystalloid or colloid solution, and asymptomatic anemia with a hemoglobin more than 7 gram does not require blood transfusion. So, what are the blood groups? You know, you must be knowing your own blood groups. So, there are various grouping systems. So, in the human RBC membrane, approximately 20 separate blood group antigens are known, and expression of each of these under a genetic control form a separate chromosomal loci. So, what is ABO system? AB or O, individual not having or not having an antigen or antibody. So, depending on that, the ABO system is formed. So, what is RH system? It depends on the D antigen. Its presence will cause an Rh positive. Individual lacking the D antigen will be Rh negative. And formation of anti-D antibody in such patient almost always results from exposure through transfusion or from pregnancy. So, other minor systemic groupings are Lewis, P, MNS, Duffy, Kell, Kidd or Lutheran. So, the most commonly used is the AB and O grouping transfusion. So, A person will be having an A antigen and B antibody, okay, and he can give blood to A and AB group, and he can receive blood from A and O group. So, B will have a B antigen and anti-A antibody. So, he can give blood to B and AB, and he can receive from B and O. And AB blood group, they have an A and B antigen, they don't have an antibody, and they can give blood only to AB group, and they are called as universal acceptors, because any person can give them blood. AB and O person can give them blood, but they can give blood only to AB person. So, O is called as a universal donor. So, they don't have an antigen, they have only antibody. They can give blood to any blood group person, but can receive only O blood group. So, this is the picture showing the antigen and the antibody. So, A blood group, as you can see, there is an A antigen, anti-B antibody, and B blood group has a B antigen, anti-A antibody. AB, they have AB antigen, no antibodies, and O, they have O antigen. They don't have an antigen, and they have only anti-A antibodies. So, how do you select the blood donor? You must have seen the blood camp happening where you can donate the blood. So, what are the requirements when you want to donate the blood in a blood donation camp? The age should be 18 to 60 years. Weight 45 kg can donate 350 ml and around 60 kg can donate 450 ml. Systolic blood pressure should be normal 100 to 120 millimeter of mercury and diastolic 50 to 100 millimeter of mercury. Oral temperature not more than 37.5 degrees centigrade and interval between subsequent donation should be at least 3 months. So hemoglobin should be more than 12.5 gram percentage. Clinically heart, lung, abdomen should be normal. Spleen and liver should not be palpable. And it should be free of any diseases like hepatitis B, C, HIV, syphilis and malaria, etc. So who can give blood? As I told, people with the O blood group are called as universal donors because they can give blood to any blood group. And people with AB blood group are called as universal recipients because they can receive any type of blood. So RH positive person can give to both positive and negative person can receive only RH negative blood. So coming to the blood products. Whole blood. It has a blood components like in what does the whole blood contain? RBC, WBC, platelet, plasma. So it has a whole blood has everything. So plasma and platelet are collected by apheresis and and also fresh frozen plasma and cryoprecipitate. So what are the plasma derivatives? Plasma derivatives are albumin, coagulation factor concentrates and immunoglobulins. So this is the picture of a blood vessel containing the RBC, WBC, platelets, and you can see the layers of the blood vessel containing a tunica, intima, media and adventitia as you've seen in your pathology textbooks. And it whole blood contain everything. So what is the whole blood? 450 ml donor blood contains red cells, white cells, platelets, plasma, clotting factors. So hemoglobin will be 12 gram per ml. Hematocrit 35 to 45% in 1 unit. It is stored between 2 to 6 degrees centigrade in approved blood bank refrigerator and transfusion should be started within 30 minutes of removal from the refrigerator. Complete transfusion within 4 hours of commencement. Indications are acute blood loss with hypovolemia, exchange transfusion, pediatric transfusion when red cell concentrate or suspensions are not available, contraindications like risk of volume overload in patients with chronic anemia and incipient cardiac failure. So what are the red cell concentrate or packed red cells? Packed red cell contain 150 to 200 ml of red cells. Hemoglobin will be more high, that is 20 gram per ml. Hematocrit will be 55 to 75%. Shelf life 35 days in CPDA solution at 2 to 4 degrees centigrade storage. Stored and administered same as the whole blood. Indications are replacement of red cells in anemic patients, used with crystalloids and colloids in acute blood loss. So what is a red cell suspension? The description is 150 to 200 ml of red cells plus 100 ml normal saline and an adenine glucose mannitol solution or an equivalent red cell nutrient is added. So hemoglobin will have a 15 gram per ml and hematocrit 50 to 70%. Storage and administration are same as red cell concentrate. Indications same as red cell concentrate. Contraindications are exchange transfusion in neonates. So what are additive red cells? Addition of additive solution like Adzol contains saline, dextrose, mannitol, adenine increases the shelf life to 42 days at 2 to 6 degrees centigrade. It is indicated to increase the oxygen carrying capacity and risk of volume overload in neonatal and old patients. So what are washed red cells? Provide a plasma poor and leukocyte poor red cells for patients who are allergic to or have a transfusion reactions. So 2 washings remove 98% of plasma and 92% leukocytes and the unit must be transfused within 24 hours. Indicated in patients who develop antibodies against leukocyte, platelets or plasma antigens which lead to repeated non-hemolytic febrile or allergic transfusion reactions. So what are leukocyte poor red cells? They are prepared by washing method or more efficiently by using a third generation leukocyte reduction filters which can remove 99.9% of WBCs from the blood units. It is indicated to prevent febrile reactions or allow immunization, effective in preventing transmission of cytomegalovirus infection in intrauterine transfusion, transmission of premature infant born to CME negative mothers, newborn receiving exchange transfusion, bone marrow and heart lung transplant recipient, children with congenital immunodeficiency syndromes. So what are irradiated red cells? Gamma radiation exposure of 1500 to 3000 rads to red cells, inactivates the donor lymphocyte, thus prevent graft versus host disease. Indications are autologous or allogenic bone marrow transplant recipients, patient with congenital immunodeficiency syndrome like Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, newborn receiving exchange transfusion, premature infant, patient with acute leukemia, Hodgkin's disease, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, patient receiving aggressive chemotherapy. Frozen deglycerylated red cells. The red cells are frozen in antifreeze glycerol solution stored at minus 65 degrees centigrade or lower temperature up to 10 years. Indications for autologous blood transfusion as a source for rare blood groups in low birth weight infant to reduce CMV exposure during repeated transfusions. What are regenerated blood cells? Prepared by incubating the cells in regenerating solution containing pyruvate, adenine, inosine phosphate and glucose at 37 degrees centigrade for 1 hour. The treated cells regain increase in the ATP and 2,3-DPG levels, thereby the oxygen carrying capacity. So what are platelet concentrates or platelet-rich plasma? Single donor unit in the volume of 50 to 60 ml of plasma should contain at least 55 into 10 raised to 9 platelet, less than 1.2 into 10 raised to 9 red cells, 0.12 into 10 raised to 9 leukocyte. So platelets are supplied either as a single donor unit or as a combination of multiple donors. Storage up to 72 hours at 20 to 40 degrees centigrade. Shelf life is 3 days and 5 days of PRP and PC respectively. So indication, treatment or prevention of bleeding due to thrombocytopenia and platelet function defect like aplastic anemia, hematological malignancies, bone marrow suppression, etc. Aspirin diathesis, massive blood transfusion, coagulopathies. So contraindications, idiopathic autoimmune thrombocytopenia like an ITP, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura like a TTP, disseminated intravascular coagulation DIC, and thrombocytopenia with septicemia until treatment has been started or with hypersplenism. Dosage, 1 unit of platelet concentrate per 10 kg of body weight in a 60 to 70 kg 4 to 6 single donor unit containing at least 240 into 10 raised to 9 platelet should raise the platelet count by 20 into 40 into 10 raised to 9 per liter. Infused as soon as possible within 4 hours because of risk of bacterial proliferation. So platelets have both ABO and HLA antigens. ABO compatibility is ideal but does not mandatory. Incompatibility will shorten the lifespan of platelets. So what is a fresh frozen plasma? It contains the plasma separated from one whole blood donation within 6 hours of collection and then rapidly frozen to 25 degrees centigrade or colder. Normal plasma levels of stable clotting factors like albumin, factor 8 and immunoglobulins. Usual volume is 200 to 300 ml, smaller packs for children. Stored at minus 25 degree or colder up to 1 year. So indication, coagulation factor deficiency like chronic liver disease or severe acute blood loss, vitamin K deficiency, DIC, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura following massive transfusion of stored blood where coagulation factors are lost, and warfarin overdose. So cryoprecipitate prepared by thawing fresh frozen plasma at 4 to 6 degrees centigrade and collecting the cryoprecipitate protein flocculant, refreezing at minus 18 degrees centigrade. It has a 50% factor 8. 20 to 30% von Willebrand factor and factor 13, 30 to 50% fibrinogen. It is stored at minus 25 degrees centigrade or colder up to 1 year. So indication is von Willebrand disease, deficiency of factor 8 like hemophilia A and factor 13 as a source of fibrinogen in acquired coagulopathies like a DIC. So what is albumin? 5% or 25% human albumin, it is prepared by cold ethanol fractionization of the pooled donor plasma, filtered and heat inactivated at 60 degrees centigrade for 10 hours to inactivate the viruses, stored at 2 to 10 degrees centigrade for 5 years. It is used to maintain decreased intravascular volume with decreased oncotic pressure with plenty of crystalloid infusion falls. So what is immune serum globulin? It is prepared by cold ethanol fractionization of pooled donor plasma. It contains IgG with traces of IgM and IgA. Indications are primary immunodeficiencies like X-linked gamma globulinemia, secondary hypogammaglobulinemia, low birth weight infant, septic bone marrow transplant recipient, ITP, Kawasaki's disease, chronic demyelinating polyneuropathies. So how do you order blood? Assess the patient's need for transfusion. In emergency, blood is immediately needed within 1 hour less, like there is a bleeding patient in an OT or in a casualty. So urgently request the ABO and RH compatibility. So definitive need for blood like an elective surgery, planned surgery. So expected blood loss. So you have to keep a blood ready. Request ABO and RH compatible blood to be available at start time. So possible need like maybe or may not be needed. You can get request for the group and antibody screening and hold. So administering blood products. So whenever you get a blood bag from the blood bank, you will be having the patient's name on it, ABO and RH group, blood group of the blood pack and donation number of the blood pack and patient name and IP number. So adequate matching should be done before starting the blood. So do not administer the transfusion if the blood pack appears abnormal or damaged or has been out of the refrigerator for longer than 30 minutes. Inform the blood bank immediately. So time limits are whole blood or red cells, packed cells, start transfusion within 30 minutes, complete within 4 hours. Platelets start immediately. Platelets will be at room temperature only and it should be completed within 20 minutes. Fresh frozen plasma and cryoprecipitate as soon as possible and completed within 20 minutes. What monitoring do you transfuse patient? What do you expect when you start a blood transfusion? Adverse reactions, because you are transfusing somebody else's blood into the patient. So adverse reactions are expected. Patient should be monitored before starting the infusion as soon as transfusion has been started, 15 minutes after starting, at least every hour during the transfusion on the completion and 4 hours after the completion. And severe reaction most commonly present during the first 15 minutes of transfusion, or all patients should be monitored during this period. So at each of these stages, record the patient's general appearance, temperature, pulse rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, fluid balance, oral IV fluid intake, urine output and any adverse effect. Time and after start of transfusion and the end of transfusion should be recorded. So what is an autologous transfusion? What is auto? Self. So self transfusion. So patients who need blood can donate their own blood for transfusion in a planned way. Like planned surgery in the next 1 or 2 months. Next 2 months you can start your donating your own blood and store it in the blood bank, so that whenever the need arises, like during a surgery when you need the blood, the same blood can be transfused. It eliminates the danger of transmitting cross infections from donor to recipient and decreases the risk of complications from mismatched blood. Requires advanced planning, like blood must be donated 5 weeks before surgery. So what is the strategy? Blood collection strategy over a period of 5 weeks. Protocol is followed is 1 unit 3 weeks prior, then 1 unit after 2 weeks, followed by 1 more unit after 1 week. Up to 4 to 5 liter of blood can be collected. So minimum of 72 hours is required between donations to make the certain that plasma volume returns to normal. And patient in between is given an iron supplementation and 400 unit of recombinant erythropoietin therapy. So what is blood salvage and reinfusion? It is mainly seen in cardiac, vascular, orthopedic surgeries. The blood lost is collected and it is washed, concentrated and reinfused. So blood is collected in an anticoagulant like heparin reservoir. To be effective, loss should be 1 to 1.5 liter. So contraindication or sepsis or malignant tumor bleeds. So what is massive blood transfusion? It is defined as a need to transfuse 1 to 2 times the patient's whole blood within 24-hour period, like 20 to 20 units in an adult. So major problems associated with massive blood transfusion are coagulopathy, dilutional thrombocytopenia, lack of coagulation factors, DIC-like syndrome, acid-base abnormalities, hypothermia, citrate toxicity and hyperkalemia. So what coagulopathy? Coagulopathy occur either in the form of dilutional thrombocytopenia or due to dilution and consumption of coagulation factors like DIC. So coagulation studies, PTT, fibrinogen, platelet count, thromboelastography will guide the platelets and fresh frozen plasma transfusion. So citrate binds to calcium leading to hypocalcemia. So calcium is required for cardiac muscle contraction of an action potential of a cardiac muscle. So the citrate, which is a preservative for storing blood, it binds with the calcium and causes hypocalcemia. So there is less calcium available for contraction of the heart, ultimately causing cardiac depression, hypotension and normal pulse pressure. So chances are more with hepatic dysfunction because citrate metabolizes in the liver. Condition only occurs when blood is given too rapid, like 1 unit of blood in 5 minutes in an average size adult. So, acid base imbalance, initially metabolic acidosis due to citric acid and accumulation of red cell metabolite like a CO2, pyruvate, lactic acid. Once normal perfusion is restored, progressive metabolic alkalosis ensures, like citrate and lactate get converted into bicarbonate. So, initially acidosis, later alkalosis occurs. Potassium disturbance. RBC inside contains a potassium so hyperkalemia occurs because stored blood potassium is released. So hypokalemia generally accompanies metabolic alkalosis. Hypothermia, since the cold blood is infused. Post-operative shivering occurs. Oxygen consumption now increases 4 times. At temperature less than 30°, ventricular irritability, even cardiac arrest may occur. This can be prevented by warming the blood to body temperature before transfusion. So what is massive blood management? Watch for the type of bleeding from the wound, IV site of mucous membrane. Restore the blood volume to maintain the normal blood pressure and transfusion, tissue perfusion. Maintain oxygen carrying capacity. Rule out surgical source of bleeding. Correct coagulopathy by judicious use of fresh frozen plasma, platelet, cryoprecipitate as directed by coagulation profile and platelet count. Prevent hypothermia. Medications like calcium chloride and bicarbonate. So, coming to transfusion reactions, start a blood, and what do you expect? So, you have to, as I told you, have to monitor before the start, at the start, 15 minutes after the start. Why? Because you expect a transfusion reaction. Acute hemolytic, there can be divided into acute hemolytic transfusion reaction and delayed hemolytic transfusion reaction. So acute can be divided into 3 types: mild, moderate and severe. So category 1 is the mild symptoms. It has a localized cutaneous reaction like urticaria, rash. Symptoms will be pruritus. Possible causes hypersensitivity. So moderately severe reactions will present as flushing, urticaria, rigors, fever, restlessness and tachycardia. Symptoms are anxiety, pruritus, palpitation, mild dyspnea, headache. Possible cause are hypersensitivity, febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reaction, contamination with pyrogens and bacteria. So category 3 is life-threatening. It has a rigors, fever, restlessness, hypotension, 20% fall in systolic blood pressure, tachycardia, 20% rise in heart rate, hemoglobinuria and unexplained DIC like bleeding. Symptoms are anxiety, chest pain, pain near the infusion site, respiratory distress, loin or back pain, headache and dyspnea. Possible causes are acute intravascular hemolysis, bacterial contamination and septic shock, fluid overload, anaphylaxis, transfusion associated acute lung injury. So management, when you see adverse reaction, what is the first thing you have to do? Stop the transfusion immediately. Blood of the patient should be drawn to identify hemoglobin in the plasma. Repeat compatibility testing, coagulation studies and platelet count. Maintain the urine output of 75 to 100 ml per hour by following method, like continue IV infusion with the NS and mannitol, osmotic diuresis to prevent renal shutdown. If this is ineffective, give furosemide 20 to 40 mg IV. Alkalize the urine. If there is a rapid blood loss, platelets and fresh frozen plasma should be given. Return the unused blood to the blood bank for repeat cross matching. Prevent hypotension to ensure adequate renal blood flow. So coming to delayed hemolytic transfusion reaction, it occurs after 5 to 10 days. Hemolysis may be mediated by the immunoglobulin G antibody of the 2 types: primary alloimmunization and anamnestic or secondary response, mainly in recipients sensitized to RBC antigen by previous blood transfusion or pregnancy. Symptoms are mild like malaise, anemia, jaundice and fever. Diagnosis is done by Coombs test. So other than the hemolytic transfusion reaction, there can be a non-hemolytic reaction like a febrile reactions, urticaria, anaphylaxis, TRALI like transfusion related acute lung injury, graft versus host disease, post transfusion purpura and thrombocytopenia. So there can be infectious complications like diseases that can be transmitted by transfusion are HIV 1 and 2, hepatitis C virus, hepatitis B virus, West Nile virus, Treponema pallidum, malaria, Chagas disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease or mad cow disease, cytomegalovirus, bacterial infection, gram positive like staphylococcus or gram negative Yersinia or Citrobacter. So coming to fluid and electrolyte balance in a perioperative patient. So what is the normal distribution of total body water? How much total body water do you contain? 60% of your body weight will be water only. So 0.6 into your body weight. Like in a 70 kg man, it will come to 42 liters. In that, 2/3 will be intracellular, like within the cell, and 1/3 will be extracellular. So extracellular will contain interstitial fluid, plasma and transcellular fluid. So in that, 3/4 of the ECF will comprise of the interstitial fluid, and 1/4 will be plasma and transcellular fluid. So this is the chemical composition of the body fluid of the plasma, interstitial and intracellular fluid. Here you can see the most of the potassium is intracellular and most of the sodium is extracellular. The gist of this. So what is fluid therapy? Factors governing the distribution. Fluid, when you give it depends on the type of fluid, the cell membrane, whether the cell membrane should be permeable, the size particle of the fluid you have given, and difference in the oncotic pressure between the two compartments. So this is the daily water balance. As I told, in a 70 kg man with 60% total body water comes to 42 liters. In that, 28 liters will be the intracellular and 14 liters will be extracellular fluid, and the fluid ingested will be equal to the fluid excreted. So we ingest fluid goes through solid food or through metabolic water, and excreted through the skin, like in the form of sweat, lungs in the form of expiration, in the form of urine, and feces also excrete some fluids. So coming to IV fluids are two types, like a colloid and crystalloid. So crystalloid is an ionic solution, just an ionic solution containing sodium, potassium, calcium, etc. And a colloid is a protein like mass, so it has a thicker albumin, heta starch, polygelatins, dextrans, blood and its products. So difference between crystalloids and colloids: crystalloid, I told, it's a simple ionic solution, so it is inexpensive. Plasma oncotic pressure will be reduced, and anaphylaxis risk will be very less. Because it's an ionic solution, the requirement will be more, 4 times as compared to colloids, and it can cause tissue edema, and capillary perfusion will be very poor. But colloid, its intravascular persistence is very good because it's a protein like mass. Its hemodynamic stabilization will be prolonged. Required infusion volume will be moderate. Risk of tissue edema is insignificant. Capillary perfusion is good, and plasma oncotic pressure is maintained, and as also its cost is high. So this is the component of IV fluid. So 5% dextrose contain 50 milliequivalent per liter of dextrose, and osmolarity will be 278. And normal saline, it has a 154 sodium and 154 potassium, and 308 is a milliosmoles. Our Linger lactate, it has 130 sodium, 4 potassium, 109 chloride, 28 lactate and 3 calcium, to 274 milliosmoles. And others are the isolate PG and 5% dextrose, normal saline, DNS, etc. So DNS will have a high osmolarity of 432. So body osmolarity is around 280. So the most correlating fluid will be Ringer lactate. So it is isoosmolar because it correlates with the body fluid. It contains all the electrolytes also. So practical crystalloid therapy, if you infuse a normal saline 0.9% to 1 liter, all the sodium will remain in the ECF. So as normal saline is isotonic, there is no change in the ECF osmolarity and no water exchange occurs across the cell membrane. It expands only ECF. Intracellular volume will be increased only by 250 ml. And if you infuse glucose 5% and 1000 ml, the glucose will enter the cell and metabolize. Water expands both the ECF, ICM in proportion to their volumes. ECF volume will increase by 333 ml, and intravascular volume will only increase by approximately 100 ml. And persistence of in the circulation, crystalloids is 30 minutes and colloids is 90 minutes. Requirement in a 70 kg man, it depends on a Hawley-Hagar formula. It is a 4:1 formula. So that we will come to know when you come to the OT. So what is the daily electrolyte requirement? Sodium is 0.5 to 1 millimole per kg per day, and potassium 0.5 to 1 millimole per kg per day. So assessment of volume in a status in a surgical patient. Clinical assessment, look for the skin turgor, venous distension, orthostasis, blood pressure, organomegaly, pulmonary edema, urine volume and urine osmolarity. And monitoring, go for the central venous pressure, pulmonary artery pressure, cardiac output, echocardiography to assess the volume status. So why fluid therapy in a surgical patient needs a special consideration? So surgery is a stress. So stress will increase the ACTH, that is aldosterone and steroids. Pain and stress will increase the ADH secretion also. Surgical stress, direct damage to kidney, and brain, lung and GIT and skin can occur. So post-op fluid, it depends on the pre-op and intra-op fluid status of a patient. EM is to maintain a blood pressure of 100 to 70, pulse rate of less than 120, hourly output of 30 to 50 ml, normal temperature, respiration and sensorium. When and how long to give, it depends on the type of surgery. Like minor surgery with no bowel handling, only to correct the pre-op NPO, like hernia, minor ortho or plastic procedures. Major surgeries with no handling of gut, IV fluids only for 24 to 48 hours, like CABG, THR, craniotomy, etc. Major with gut handling until the gut motility normalizes. So factors to be considered are age, weight, vitals and urine output, nature of the surgery and blood loss, blood or fluid replaced intraoperatively, drain output, NG tube aspirate, fluid lost in the fistulas, insensible water loss. So what is the ideal fluid? Prolonged vomiting or NG suction, give normal saline. If urine output adequate, potassium hydrates after the second day. Small bowel fistulas, diarrhea, choice is ringer lactate. Additional bicarbonate potassium supplements to treat metabolic acidosis and hypokalemia. If there is a loss of blood, if less than 10%, 3 times the volume of isotonic saline or ringer lactate. If greater, use colloids for replacement, or more than 20%, go for blood. So how to assess the adequacy of resuscitation? Guided by restoration of vitals and urine output. If uncertainty exists, CVP catheter or Swan-Ganz catheter to help guide the fluid therapy. In general, there is no need to check electrolyte levels in the first few days of an uncomplicated post-op course. So post-op hypovolemia, what are the causes? Inadequate correction of deficit. Intraoperative blood loss required replaced with equal volume of crystalloids. Blood loss should be replaced with 3 times the volume of crystalloids. So fluid loss from the NG aspiration, drains, fistulas are not replaced. Third, space losses, like a surgical space, there is some lost into the air which cannot be calculated. So it can be predicted. So this has not been corrected. Early post-op, if hypotension and disproportionate anemia, think of internal bleeding. So coming to the common electrolyte abnormalities, I tell you about the sodium and potassium abnormalities because they are the most common. So what are causes of hyponatremia? Hyponatremia, when you see hyponatremia, you should go for a volume status also. If volume status is high, then the more hyponatremia with increased volume status, then increased intake, post-operative ADH secretion and drugs. So if it is normal, then can be hyperglycemia, increased plasma lipids or proteins, SIDH, water intoxication. So diuretics. So if it is low, then decrease sodium intake, like GI loss, renal loss, diuretics, or primary renal disease. So what are the post-op causes? Stress-induced ADH secretion, catabolism-induced release of water from glycogen, fat or protein breakdown, post-op fluid supplementation exclusively with 5% dextrose, erroneous replacement of GI losses with sodium-free fluid, post-op Sturp syndrome and SIDH in neurosurgical patients. Clinical manifestations are headache, confusion, seizures, raised ICT, coma, weakness, fatigue, muscle cramps, twitching, oliguria, lacrimation, salivation, hypertension, bradycardia, anorexia, nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. If any post-op patient on IV fluid become drowsy, weak or confused or get convulsions, always rule out hyponatremia. So treatment, raise the plasma sodium by restricting water intake or promoting water loss, replacement sodium and potassium deficit, correct the underlying disorder, symptomatic hyponatremia, quantity of sodium required to plasma, increase the plasma sodium concentration is equal to desired change in sodium into total body water, some formula is there. So your 3% normal saline is used, sodium is raised by 1 to 2 milliequivalent per liter, not more than 10 to 12 milliequivalent per liter during the first 24 hours. What are the causes of hypernatremia? Assess the volume status. High, that means iatrogenic sodium administration, like mineralocorticoid excess. And if it is normal, then non-renal water loss like skin, GIT, or a renal water loss, renal disease or diuretics like diabetes insipidus. And if the volume status is low, then non-renal water loss, renal tubular acidosis, osmotic diuresis, diabetic insipidus, adrenal failure. So causes are uncommon in surgical patient, excessive infusion of isotonic saline, pure water loss replaced with isotonic saline, post head injury or neurosurgery, diabetes insipidus, excessive pure water loss and severe hyperglycemia due to osmotic diuresis. So clinical manifestations are restlessness, lethargy, irritability, ataxia, delirium, seizures and coma, tachycardia, hypotension and syncope, dry sticky mucous membrane, red swollen tongue, oliguria and fever. So treatment, goal to stop ongoing water loss, correct water deficit. So water deficit is equal to plasma sodium minus 140 by 140 into total body water. So plasma sodium lowered by 0.5 milliequivalent per liter per hour and no more than 12 milliequivalent per liter over the first 24 hours. Half normal saline is used to correct hyponatremia. So coming to hyperkalemia, as I told, potassium is more inside the cells. So whenever the cell breaks, there will be hyperkalemia. Like causes are increased intake like a potassium supplementation, blood transfusion, endogenous load or destruction like hemolysis, rhabdomyolysis, crush injury, GI hemorrhage, increased release like in acidosis, rapid rise of extracellular osmolarity, impaired excretion like potassium sparing diuretic, renal insufficiency or failure. Symptoms of hyperkalemia are nausea, vomiting, colic, diarrhea, weakness, paralysis, respiratory failure, arrhythmia and arrest. So treatment, 10 ml of 10% calcium gluconate over 2 to 3 minutes, insulin glucose infusion, soda bicarbonate, thiazide diuretics, oral potassium resins like sodium, polystyrene, sulfonate, thiooxalate, dialysis in renal failure patient. Hypokalemia can be due to inadequate intake, dietary potassium free IV fluids, potassium deficient TPN, excessive potassium excretion like hyperaldosteronism, medication, GI losses like direct loss of potassium from GIT, diarrhea, or renal loss like gastric fluid, either vomiting or high NG output. Symptoms are ileus, constipation, decreased deep tendon reflexes, fatigue, weakness, paralysis, and cardiovascular arrest. Treatment is oral therapy, always safer than IV. IV reserved for severe hypokalemia. Rate of infusion should not exceed 20 milliequivalent per hour. Maximum concentration administration is 40 milliequivalent per liter via peripheral vein, 100 via central vein. Ideal fluid to mix is normal saline, and dextrose solutions exacerbate hypokalemia due to insulin release. 10 ml ampule 15% KSL is equal to 10 ml ampule has 20 milliequivalent of potassium. Thank you.